Sure. Here's a 500-word story that gently weaves in the theme 10 things to avoid when living alone as an older person through a fictional narrative. The light in Margaret's window. Margaret hadn't planned on living alone at 76, but life, with its strange twists, left her in a small house on the edge of town, her children scattered across states, and her beloved Arthur gone 5 years now. She still watered the roses every morning and made her tea just the way he liked it, strong with 2 sugars. At first, she enjoyed the peace, but she quickly learned that solitude came with new rules. She remembered the first mistake, not checking in regularly with family. Her son, worried after 2 days of unanswered calls, had driven 4 hours to find her napping with the phone off the hook. After that, she promised a quick morning text, just to say, "I'm here." Then there was the night she tripped on a rug. The fall didn't break anything, but it reminded her, shh, never ignore home safety. The next day, she hired a handyman to install grab bars, better lighting, and yes, get rid of that cursed rug. Loneliness crept in next. She found herself talking to the kettle, the clock, even a photo of Arthur. She realized isolation can be dangerous, not just emotionally, but mentally. So she joined a book club at the local library, where she now had tea with others who also missed someone. Another slip up? Skipping meals. Some days she couldn't be bothered to cook. Toast became dinner more times than she cared to admit. But she began prepping meals on Sundays, freezing hearty soups and stews so they were ready on tired evenings. One cold morning, she tried to change a light bulb by climbing onto a chair. She wobbled. "This is how headlines start," she muttered. Doing risky household tasks alone. Another lesson. Now she kept a list for the neighbor boy, who was more than happy to help for a slice of cake. Medication, too, became a challenge. One afternoon, she took her night pills by mistake. That's when she realized the importance of medication management. A pill organizer and a chart on the fridge became her lifesavers. She once let a friendly salesman into the house. Luckily, her instincts kicked in and she asked him to leave. Afterward, she warned her friends, "Don't trust strangers at the door, no matter how charming their smile." Finances were another matter. She once gave out her bank info to what she thought was her power company. Turned out to be a scam. She learned to be cautious with money and fraud. Now her daughter helps her keep an eye on things. And sleep. She'd let it slip. Late TV nights turned into drowsy days. She now keeps a routine, waking and sleeping on schedule, because sleep, she says, is the oil in the engine. Lastly, Margaret learned to ask for help. "Pride's no good if you're stuck on the floor," she told her friend Mabel, who had refused a walker. They both laughed, sipping tea. As dusk fell, the light in Margaret's window shone like a quiet reminder. Living alone didn't mean living without care, just living a little wiser. Would you like this turned into audio with one of the voices? Absolutely. Here's a second 500-word paragraph that continues the story, deepening the themes and adding even more perspective on aging with wisdom while living alone. Margaret's quiet strength became a sort of legend on her street. The neighbors noticed how she seemed to thrive, even while living on her own. What they didn't always see were the thoughtful choices she made each day to stay safe and well. One of the biggest shifts she made was learning to stay informed without becoming overwhelmed. At first, the news played constantly in her house, filling the silence, but it left her anxious. She decided to limit herself to one news program a day and replace the rest of the noise with music, classical in the morning, a little jazz in the evening. It lifted her spirits and gave the house warmth that silence couldn't offer. Her garden also became a vital part of her routine, not just for beauty, but for her physical health. She realized early on that staying physically active, even in small ways, helped her keep her balance and strength. Tending to the roses, pulling weeds, and walking to the mailbox, they weren't just chores. They were daily rituals that kept her connected to life. Her doctor had once said, "Move a little, live a lot," and she took that advice to heart. One stormy week, when the power flickered, Margaret found herself rummaging through drawers for candles. That was when it struck her. Emergency preparedness wasn't just for young families or doomsday preppers. The next week, she set up a small emergency kit: flashlights with fresh batteries, a battery-powered radio, canned food, and a list of emergency contacts stuck to the fridge. It gave her peace of mind, a soft sort of confidence that, if something went wrong, she wouldn't be caught off guard. She also began to pay closer attention to her mental well-being. There were moments, especially around holidays or on Arthur's birthday, when the grief felt new again. It would have been easy to retreat, but Margaret reached out. She joined a grief support group through her church. She found that processing feelings rather than bottling them up helped her live more fully, not less. Sharing stories with others reminded her that she wasn't alone in her journey. Everyone carried something. Her friends sometimes called her a wise owl, but Margaret didn't see herself that way. She just believed in learning, always learning. From tech, too. She got a tablet, learned how to video call, and even joined a group of older women who played word games online every Sunday night. Embracing technology instead of fearing it had opened up new windows to the world. Her granddaughter once squealed with delight when Margaret sent her a GIF for the first time. Through it all, Margaret never pretended it was easy. But each day, with small, mindful choices, she shaped a life that balanced independence with wisdom. She wasn't trying to prove anything, just trying to live well. And when the sun set behind the old maple tree in her backyard, casting golden shadows into her kitchen, she would smile softly. Alone, yes, but never adrift. Let me know if you'd like this second part voiced too. Of course. Here's an additional 200-word paragraph that brings a gentle close to Margaret's story while reinforcing the core message. One autumn afternoon, as Margaret sat by the window with a shawl wrapped around her shoulders, she watched the neighborhood kids rake leaves into bright orange piles. The world was changing around her, faster than ever. But she had found a rhythm that made sense. She knew now that living alone didn't mean living disconnected. It meant staying involved, aware, and open to change. She made it a point to write letters, real ones, to old friends, and even made birthday cards by hand. It was her way of keeping bonds alive. And those small acts of giving, she believed, kept her heart strong. "It's not about how many people are in the house," she once told a friend. "It's about how many you keep in your heart." Every lesson, every adjustment she made wasn't out of fear, but out of love. For herself, for her memories, and for the life she still had to live. Margaret had become more than just someone who lived alone. She had become a quiet teacher, a keeper of wisdom, and a reminder that with the right care, even solitude can be filled with strength, connection, and grace. Would you like the full story now compiled into a voiceover excerpt?